Retro D here. I am back. D Games isn't. He's out and about. But it is good to be back. It's been a while. We got locked out of the account. I tried several attempts to get in. No backup email address. A story for another time. Don't let that happen to you. Lesson learned. Why am I here today making this video? Well, before you see an original OG Xbox auction that I recently won. I wasn't really in the market for an original Xbox, but let me tell you what happened. I was in the market for an Xbox 360. I wanted to LAN up a new 360 with the one that I already had. The reason being, the original Xbox games, there's quite a few LAN games, and you can LAN them up and have a great time. So I wanted to have that in the studio. At the end of the day, I bought an Xbox from a reliable seller that was supposedly fully functional. When I tested the original Xbox games, they did not work. I did a lot of research. The seller didn't really get into anything. He played kind of as if he had no idea, even though he is a reseller, and I'm sure he's aware of this issue. What I found out is that when you work on these Xbox 360s or any of these old consoles and you replace that drive, in the case of the 360, it removed the partition that was critical to the compatibility for the original Xbox game, so it didn't work. And I asked him about it. He said he wasn't aware. So I had to send that unit back, and luckily I bought off a seller that did accept returns. So here we are, and now I'm bidding on this so that I can, my end goal is to LAN up two systems in the studio, the 360 with the original Xbox. But now I'm a little leery, right? Because the reseller market isn't what it was. There's a lot of junk being sold, and let's face it, a lot of the hardware is getting older, and people that are not qualified are working on these systems. So how do you protect yourself in a marketplace? Whether it's eBay, Facebook, or any of these reseller markets, right? So I don't know that you can fully. There are several things you can do. This was my process, and I just thought I'd share with you how I went about validating that this particular Xbox was working and worked as advertised. So here you go. There's the video on that. Okay, this is our Xbox. Just came from eBay today. I filmed these just to make sure that, if there are any issues, I can point them out to the seller. It's not a bad idea to do this. This is still taped. No real box. This is a softer box. No damage on it. Just so we capture this, make sure that we're talking about the same item. You can see that there. Okay. And so now we'll open the box, and the first thing we'll do is lay the items out, make sure everything's in the box as the auction calls for. Certainly an Xbox in here, I can feel that. We'll get some cabling, and we have the other half of the power supply or a controller. Yeah, controller. All right, so now the box is empty. We'll put it aside. Got a power supply. Not familiar with this one. The AV and the controller, and now we'll take a look at the actual console. The wrapping on the package itself, around the unit itself, I should say, is significant enough that should have provided enough protection during ship. So no cracks on the top, scratches. It's an older unit. It's uneven though. Let's see why. Oh, there you go. It's missing a foot. So it's missing a foot, as you can see. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. We'll have to just put something down there. I don't know that that was disclosed. And there's nothing in the box. Yeah, there's nothing in the box. So, nothing in the packaging. So yeah, it's just missing a foot, and we'll have to figure something out there. So, the unit's quite a bit dirty. I'm going to take this off at this point so we can get a closer look. I mean, you can see it's dirty. I mean, look at that. It's got some significant scratching on the top against the, and let's also look at it from this perspective. Okay, so the first test we'll do is to take the power supply that's been provided and ensure that it powers on the unit, and we can open the drawer for the game. Okay, so that's powered on. Power on our unit. It's got an orange light, a blinking orange light. That could be just when it gets fired up. Opens and closes without issue, which is nice because these can have issues. So, one of the first areas I'm really concerned about is you can see the amount of, if you want to call it age or dirt, but that almost looks rusted. So, you know, I'll plug it in and see if we have any issues. The whole point is to link these up. So if that network port is faulty, I want to know sooner rather than later. Power on. Now we'll plug in the controller and ensure that the controller is big test here. Power it on. We've got the green light now because we are hooked up to a television. Okay, we've got the Xbox clock. So it's a good cable, Cat 5K, what I think it's Cat 6 these days. Plugged in, and we're going to check and see if it's picking up an IP. It really should be because it's on a DHCP based network. So we should have some kind of a 10 IP or a 192 depending on what the router gives it, assuming the network port is viable. And it's spinning, so this is curious. Let's see what happens here. Okay. IP address. Automatic. There you go. And look at that, 10.0.0.1.11 gateway, and that going to test is none other than Doom 3. And I keep my games in really good shape this way. I don't have any excuses. If this disc isn't red, I know that it's not the disc. It's, you know, the laser eye. So let's take a look at this disc. All right. So if you look at this disc, you'll see it's really in phenomenal shape. Okay. It's got very light hairline scratches, barely used. So we're going to pop it in, see how she goes. Now what I'll watch for is jitter. You know, see if the disc is skipping at all during the read process, because that would mean that we possibly have a read issue, but I see no evidence of that. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'll play this for a few, you know, and I'll make sure that I don't have any unexpected behavior. But I've done all the checks I can possibly do. This unit, while it's a bit dirty, is really seems to be in great shape. And I'll go and leave this seller positive feedback and thank him for a good transaction. So there you go. That was my process, and I lucked out. The unit was in great shape, gave the seller excellent feedback, and all's well that ends well. But the process I took may have helped if I needed to escalate this, because I had the video proof and the steps I took to validate each thing along the way. Going forward, that's how I'm going to do things. Unfortunately, the reseller market, as I've said, you know, it's a Wild West show out there. So, you know, find a good seller and stick with them. Use an abundance of caution, as they say. Great to be back. Guys, like and subscribe if this is your first time. The more feedback we get, the more I want to build this channel and do some interesting things. So, looking forward to it. It's good to be back, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care.